The National Trust is famous worldwide for its stunning properties, but its gardens and its landscapes are equally spectacular. I'm Jane Moore, and in this new series with the National Trust's official partner STIHL, I'll be going behind the scenes to see just what it takes to maintain and manage these beautiful spaces. Today I'm here at Winkworth Arboretum in the southeast of England, and we'll be looking at some beautiful trees, some glorious autumn colour, and finding out just how beneficial dead wood can be to the wildlife in your garden. But first, let's go and meet the head gardener, Graham. So tell me, Graham, what exactly is an arboretum?
Essentially, an arboretum is just a collection of trees. We have botanic gardens that curate and collect a number of different species, trees and shrubs. But an arboretum is specifically a collection of trees more or less in one place.
There are quite a lot of arboretums through the country, aren't there? And this is probably one of the younger ones, I'm thinking.
Yep, it was more or less started when Dr. Fox was a consultant dermatologist. He worked in London, retired, and he bought parcels of land around Godalming, including Winkworth Farm. And he started to plant trees based on information from his friends Harold Hillier from Hillier Garden.
Very famous, yes.
Yep, and W.J. Bean, who was curator of Kew at the time. So he had a lot of influential friends and knowledgeable people around him, and he started to plant the landscape in some of these fantastic autumn colours that we see. The term that he used was painting the landscape with trees.
Oh, that's a lovely phrase, and it does describe Winkworth extremely well. And it is a beautiful spot, isn't it, with the valley. Even though this is a relatively young arboretum, you've still got, several thousand trees here, haven't you?
We've got about 6,000 trees on the database, about 1,000 different species in all. We've got a lot based on autumn colour, the reds, the American oaks, the liquid ambers, and of course the lovely Japanese oaks.
Japanese maples, which just sum up autumn colour, don't they, pretty much? But you must have to still do some replanting and things.
So we don't always know how they're going to fare in the location that they've been given. We have to look at the succession of the trees. So we've got a lovely Nothofagus over there, and after a period of time, it's probably been there about 80 years now.
Fantastic tree, I noticed it on the way in.
It is beautiful, but we've planted one not so far away from it with the idea that you have this succession over a period of time. And then we have to consider the climate change and the problems that we're having with that. They are beginning to fail and show signs of drought. So what we're beginning to do now is look at spaces where we can plant trees that'll grow up in those spaces and maybe take over in 100 or so years. But these trees that we're planting now are drought tolerant. So we're planting these ones, they'll give us the colour, but then they're also a little bit more tolerant of some of these.
So you're having to sort of try and think into Dr. Fox's head a little and change the variety to suit the change in the species, actually.
Adjust it ever so slightly. Yeah. But then we have trees like the Acer rubrums that have done fantastically well where they are. They give us this red blaze of glory in October. Those are done fantastically, so all we do is find gaps for those, and there we'll just plant the same tree, and over a period of time one will get planted every 10 years to make sure there's always this constant succession.
Absolutely, but you've got some lovely mature specimens of those as well. They're absolutely stunning, aren't they? Because I often think that the shape of them as they age is a beautiful thing, as well as the beautiful autumn colour.
Very much so, and the ones up on this hill there you can see from the meadow all the way down there.
Spectacular.
For Dr. Fox to consider that over a period of time, over 100 years ago, was absolutely amazing.
They always say that, though, don't they? You plant a garden and particularly trees for the next generation, really, don't you? And he very much did that. But as well as doing a lot of work on climate change issues, you're also doing some really good work on habitat creation, I believe.
We are, and not so far away, our two arborists, Sam and Kirsten, are working very hard to do some of that work. Should we go and have a look?
I'd love to. Graham and his team have been working really hard to develop the value and wildlife potential of Winkworth's trees. And Kirsten and Sam have been especially involved with this. Hi, Kirsten.
Hi, Jane.
This is such a lovely time of the year to be at Winkworth.
Yes, you've definitely chosen a really nice time to visit.
The autumn colours this year are spectacular, aren't they? Hi, Sam.
Hello. Thanks very much.
So I hear you have a really interesting day planned in a couple of weeks. Tell me about
We
it.
do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be doing a habitat creation day, which essentially is going to be using the machinery that we've got with a crew of arborists to recreate the natural veteranization of a tree and how storm damage and wind damage would affect them.
And so how exactly are you going to go about that? How are you going to mimic nature?
So we're going to be using obviously the climbing kit to get into the trees, and then the chainsaws to be making cuts into the limbs horizontally in the middle of the limbs to try and mimic the way that branches naturally tear and split to encourage fungi, bacteria and insects into and start the process of decay.
Yeah, so you're basically going to try and create that sort of effect that wind and weather and old age has naturally.
Yes, absolutely,
Yes.
accelerating the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, I'd probably better let you get up the tree as you look quite busy.
No worries.
And Kirsten, do tell me a bit more about veteranization.
Sure. Well, oak trees support 2,300 species and they can live for over 1,000 years. And it could be said that actually in their decline, that's when they are home to so much more wildlife. And if we are too soon to remove them and they don't have all the deadwood and things that they want to live in, for safety, people are quite quick to remove all the trees and the dead limbs, and that's what the nature wants.
Absolutely. Although I kind of thought that people have got a bit more into deadwood these days with things like log piles. We've all got log piles in our gardens for little critters and things, haven't we?
Sure, I think there is a change of perspective and people are becoming more aware about the importance of that. And great, yeah, log piles, dead hedges, amazing, but there is more, we can do. And a recent survey did find out that actually a lot of arbs don't do this kind of work because customers don't want it. So if we're able to just have a little bit more education about the importance of standing deadwood, then maybe we can have more of it.
I'm guessing that a lot of people wouldn't want sort of standing deadwood in their gardens because they feel it's sort of unsightly. So it's actually a little bit of a mind shift, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it. It doesn't look the prettiest, but when you know how valuable it is for wildlife, it changes that perspective.
We'd all be delighted if we had a woodpecker living in our garden in a dead tree. And of course, I can imagine things like woodpeckers, it's pecking in to get the insects underneath the tree, but also it's softer wood, isn't it, to peck and create a hole to live in.
Exactly, and then woodpecker holes, that's maybe what a bat wants to live in, or birds can make a nest as well. So it all goes on from there.
So you get this whole ecological cycle going on. Are there lots of arboreta that are doing this?
Yes, it's definitely becoming more popular. Places like Sherwood Forest, and there is specialists that do this kind of work, and we just want to see more of it, especially managing pests and diseases, ash dieback, etc.
So you mentioned dead hedges as well. Tell me what a dead hedge is.
Yeah, so we create barriers or boundaries with dead hedges, brash, and you just keep filling it up. It just rots down. It's great for hedgehogs, invertebrates, ground nesting birds.
Right, and you're using sort of prunings and things like that. Yeah, I have seen them and they can actually be really rather beautiful and sinuous, can't they?
Sure, yeah, if you use something like hazel to make them with, you can weave that in so you can get quite creative.
That sounds great. And what about leaves? Because we all get a lot of leaves in our gardens at this time of the year. What do you do with yours? Because you've got more than most.
Sure, unfortunately leaves do get quite slippery when they rot down. So we use blowers on the paths to keep that safe for the public. But actually a lot of them will just break down and become soil, and that's also good for the soil. So we try and leave as much as possible.
Do you? That's really interesting. So you just clear the paths really, and the rest you just let nature take its course.
Exactly, yes.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much, Kirsten. I'd better let you get back to giving Sam a hand.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you so much for joining me here at Winkworth Arboretum. For more ideas and tips from people like Graham and his team, and maybe a few from me, subscribe to the STIHL GB YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.